Hi, and welcome back to Read or Not to Read. It's all Greek to me edition. Today, I've got several books that are based on Homer's epic poems, either the Iliad or the Odyssey. The first three books are based around the Iliad, which is, of course, the epic poem describing the Trojan Wars. The first book I'll recommend is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book won the 2012 Orange Prize for Fiction, and it's the story of the legend of Achilles as told through his best friend and lover, Patroclus. The second book is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Let me just pull it up here. This is an interesting take. It's also about the legend of Achilles, but it's told through the eyes of Briseis, who is a young woman who was taken as a war prize after Achilles and the Greek army sack and destroy her home and kill her family. And it's an interesting take. It's also a very gritty take, and it kind of goes more into what women experience during warfare. It's not exclusively told from her point of view, but I think it's a really interesting take and a nice alternate viewpoint of this legendary character as opposed to what's presented in Song of Achilles. The next one, as fascinating as the story of Achilles is, I think it's the story also of his ally, maybe even we could say rival, Agamemnon, who is from the House of Atreus. And Toybin's House of Names goes more into the aftermath of Agamemnon's very fateful decision to sacrifice one of his own children in order to ensure his success in the wars. This is actually a story that's told partly in view from his wife and her rage at that choice. And the story of the House of Atreus is a really fascinating one because it is a multi-generational saga of blood, death, and murder. So if you're interested in that, this might be a really good choice. The next two books relate more to the events and people that are found in the Odyssey, which is the epic poem that describes Odysseus' 10-year journey home after already being away for 10 years fighting the Trojan Wars. His encounter with a woman on an island is a very brief mention within the poem, but it's quite memorable because he meets a witch named Circe. And when she first encounters his men, she turns them into swine, and then she enters into a relationship with Odysseus and entreats him to stay with her on the island for a year before he goes on his way to complete his journey going home. This is by Madeline Miller, and I think it's well worth your time if you're interested in a little bit more about this very, very fascinating character that gets too brief a mention in the original epic poem. And last up is the Penelopiad by Margaret Atwood. This is the story of Penelope, Odysseus' wife, who ruled in his stead for 20 years and fought off multiple suitors for her hand in Odysseus' absence. This story is partly about that, but it's also about why in the original poem did Odysseus return and hang 12 of her maids. So I think if that intrigues you, you might want to pick this up. And with that, I hope I have added a few new titles to your reading list. So until next time, happy reading, and we'll see you back on the next edition of To Read or Not to Read.